Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
Last year, I stood at this podium and I showed this map.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called for the remaining leaders of Hamas to let his people go and free the remaining hostages.
This axis.
Addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York, he denounced the leaders of countries who have recognized a Palestinian state and said Israel was fighting a war on 7 fronts for the benefit of the rest of the world.
Lay down your arms. Let my people go. Free the hostages. All of them. The whole 48. Free the hostages now. If you do, you will live. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down. If Hamas agrees to our demands, the war could end right now.
Please, order in the hall.
A huge number of delegates walked out as he began his speech in protest at Israel's ongoing war in Gaza. It comes as Donald Trump says he will not allow him to annex the Israeli-occupied West Bank. The US president, who will meet Netanyahu on Monday, also said a ceasefire over the war in Gaza was pretty close. A federal grand jury in Virginia has indicted the former FBI Director James Comey on 2 charges related to his testimony to Congress. Mr. Comey, who has long drawn President Donald Trump's criticism, is accused of lying to Congress during his September 2020 testimony over whether he authorized the leak of classified information to the media. Responding to the indictment, Mr. Comey spoke in a 1-minute video on Instagram to declare himself innocent and said he has great confidence in the federal judicial system.
My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial.
The Israeli military says its air force has carried out its most powerful strike in Yemen in response to the Houthi movement's repeated drone and missile attacks on Israel. The Israeli Defense Forces said dozens of its aircraft bombed targets belonging to the Houthis' security and intelligence services and military in the capital Sana'a. The Houthi-run government's health ministry denounced what it calls Israel's brutal crime, saying civilian facilities and residential buildings were hit and that 8 people were killed. US President Donald Trump has urged Turkey to stop buying oil from Russia, part of a wider drive to cut off Moscow's energy funding as the war in Ukraine rages on. Speaking alongside President Recep Tayyip Erdogan at the White House, Mr. Trump said halting these imports would be the best thing his Turkish counterpart could do. The Oval Office meeting ended without any firm commitments to lift US sanctions on Turkey or sell advanced F-35 fighter jets, although Mr. Trump expressed optimism about both issues. Turkey has for years been prevented from buying US F-35s. In 2019, it was expelled from a program where it produced parts for the warplane after it acquired air defense systems from Russia. The former UK Prime Minister, Sir Tony Blair, has been involved in discussions about leading a post-war transitional authority in Gaza. The proposal, which is said to have backing from the White House, would see Mr. Blair lead a governing authority supported by the UN and Gulf nations before handing control back to the Palestinians. His office said he would not support any proposal that displaced the people of Gaza. Sir Tony, who took the UK into the Iraq War in 2003, has been part of high-level planning talks with the US and other parties about the future of Gaza. And China, the world's biggest source of planet-warming gases, has for the first time committed to an absolute target to cut its emissions. In a video statement to the UN in New York, President Xi Jinping said that China would reduce its greenhouse gas emissions across the economy by 7 to 10% by 2035, while striving to do better. But some critics said China's plan did not go as far as hoped to keep global climate goals in reach. This week's UN meeting in New York has extra relevance because countries are running out of time to submit their new climate plans. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.